excited to bring Rob to the stage this afternoon. He is an international VC. He had the pleasure of receiving over 22,000 pitch decks in his time. So he does keep track and he knows a few things about how to build a great pitch deck. During his 15 years as a pre-seed and seed stage startup investor, out of these he invested in 45 teams of entrepreneurs. 4 of those teams have successfully exited and now one has achieved unicorn status. So freshly relocating back to Cornwall, Rob invites you to spend some time with him as he shares his stories, breaks down the elements of a great pitch deck and shows you how to increase your chances of success in that very first meeting. So please welcome to the stage, Rob.
So yes, I have had that pleasure. I unfortunately have one of these really annoying photographic memories that doesn't allow me to forget how many decks I've seen. It's actually now almost 23,000, but we'll just leave it there for now so I'm not too nerdy. Yeah, been a VC for a while. I've raised and invested just over 35 million US dollars into 45 startups. This is an important thing with VC is that it's not just the first check, it's the follow-on check that's really important for us because that's when we, if you're doing well, we want to put more money to work and quite frankly own more of your company and then increase our potential outcome at the end. And so I've cut 96 checks in my career. Can't believe we still call them checks, more like wires I suppose, but it sounds better as checks. 4 exits, the first kind of exits were pretty small. I've had some medium-sized ones and then one company that I met when I was still trying to raise my fund. I had no money at all and I needed 250 grand to go into this really cool video game AI company. And I convinced the founders to give me 3 months to try and find 250 grand. And if I didn't, then I would find somebody else to fill my spot immediately. I did manage to find 250 grand from a friend that I met in a coffee shop in Los Angeles who just got divorced actually and had a large sum of money. And so she gave me $250,000 and I put it into that company at this was 2017, it was a $6 million valuation and we've just sold out at a $1.7 billion valuation. So done my job, returned the fund, moved back to Cornwall to do precisely not much, but that's clearly not what I'm doing because I'm stood up here talking to you. So that's me. The things I typed to, I invest in kind of 3 areas. For some reason, some of these copy has gone a bit weird, but most of my career I've been an AI-focused investor. I invest in things that do and solve problems that are dull, dirty, or dangerous. I'm not something that invests into really sexy things. I like things that you can typically charge what we call a high average contract value, high ACV, and things that are often proprietary in nature. So things built on existing LLMs are difficult to do now. So I like things that are proprietary in terms of the data that it's analyzing, where you've got it from, and the predictions that come out off the back of it. So the dangerous stuff is things in defense. I haven't invested in anything that hurts anyone. I've invested in things that save people's lives on the battlefield, just to make that clear. The other thing is I love the convergence of gaming and media. That's coming together even more in the last 18 months with Netflix and the biggest movies making the most money at the box office are based on video game IP. So I love when those two come together. But I funded 5 game studios and 1 VFX studio. And then a little while ago, I funded Taika Waititi's new production company in New Zealand. And so I've done direct film investments as well. They're quite cool, but quite scary at the same time because it's very hit driven. And then finally, I do like founder-driven consumer products that really move the needle when it comes to climate change alleviation. So not so long ago, I funded a company that was getting rid of Glad wrap and replacing that with a compostable food wrap that you could actually eat if you so wanted to. Tastes kind of crappy, but you could. Or you can put it on your compost heap and it would break down in about 12 days. And ultimately saving turtles' lives. Now, one of the things I said on the finance panel, which is about where these deals coming from, I'm not going to lie to you, most of them from the United States. It's the biggest market that you can ever try to enter. It's the biggest market that would give you the biggest outcome. And then a tiny amount came from our Commonwealth friends over in New Zealand. But most of the time, the people who've been pitching me are seasoned American entrepreneurs. And, they come with a certain bravado and with a fact that they learnt public speaking since the age of 2. They're really good at pitching. So now, where do these deals come from precisely? Well, they come from people like me. The best source of deal flow for a VC is a colleague. So someone who maybe is putting 300,000 into a round and there's 700 left, and would you like to look at it? That's great, because then they've done a lot of homework. We can't rely upon their homework, but we'll certainly use it in the back of our minds. The other ones are Y Combinator, Techstars. I was a mentor at Techstars. I've been to YC since 2010. Funded 2 deals from Y Combinator, and then also go to founder meetups. So some of the best deals I've found have come from just going out, meeting people and saying hi, and like we said earlier, no ivory tower, right? Just being super approachable. And then, the other stuff is direct. I write a lot of content, most of it's crap, but it's out there, and people read it and they say, I like what you said, and would you like to see my pitch deck? And I'll be like, yes, of course, because you just complimented me on my badly written articles. And then also through social media. And while I did say don't send your pitch deck through LinkedIn, I do get a lot of deals that come through LinkedIn, but most of it is a bit more of a personal message. And then occasionally, it might just be me picking up the phone saying, I really like what you did last time. Are you thinking about doing a new company this time? So that's me outbound calling you, which not that many VCs do, but if you're aggressive and competitive like me, then that's what you do. Now, we're going to get onto pitch decks. Forget everything that you think you need to know and what you need to accomplish with a pitch deck. All it is to get you a meeting, preferably face-to-face, but post-pandemic, most likely to be a video chat. And it will be about 30 minutes. And it will be you talking for 80% of the time and me listening and talking for the 20. And so that's all you need to do. And this is the biggest mistake I see in most pitch decks, is that you just try and give me everything. And that's like regurgitating everything great about your company when I don't need to know that. All I just need to know is it worth 30 minutes of my time to talk with you? But first, before we go into that, you do need to consider whether VC is right for you. It is a very particular type of funding that works for some companies and will be absolutely toxic for others. And that's because you will lose some control. There will be times when you cannot approve expenses for a certain amount. There will be times when, for example, we have a change of business clause in most term sheets. So if your company isn't working out and you're a software company and you decide, yep, I actually want to create ice cream, then we're going to say no, because that's not what we funded. And that's a complete reversal from what you do. So understanding about change of control is really, really important, because you're not giving up your company, but you are giving up certain aspects, and that's critical. So you need to make sure that you really like that person who you're getting into bed with, basically, in your round. Endgame expectations. We're not looking for a lifestyle business. We can't, because like I've told you, 50% of my investments will fail. Kind of 4 will, maybe like 20% will kind of just about make it, almost zombie companies. Couple will be great and 1 will be the unicorn. We cannot have lifestyle businesses, because it won't give us the returns that we need when only 1 will generate returns. And so if you want to do that, great, raise money from family and friends, look at government funding, look at things like that. But if you want to create a $1 billion company, which is what we need, then we're the right guys for you. The other thing, and I mentioned this earlier on, and I won't go over it again, but generally investors get paid back first. I've had an exit recently where the founders didn't get much because they took on quite a lot to get to that point. They got something, but it wasn't what they hoped for. And so you need to be prepared for that. It's an ugly term. It's called preference share rights, and you want to know about, and liquidation rights. You want to know what that is. But if you get it right, there's nothing else like venture capital. Like in investments that I invest in, I only invest in stuff that I know deeply, I understand, I'm nerdy about, and I love. And so therefore, I've got a network that plugs into people like that. So if you want to be connected to the head of Disney consumer products, I can do that for you. That's only because I know enough about this that I can, and people trust my opinion on that, on making introductions like that. So the chemistry is perfect. You have to be taking money from people in venture capital who understand what you're doing and have a network on day 1 of you taking that check. who can then introduce you to 15, 20, 30 people. That's really, really important. And it is great. But I've seen it where it's not. So when you've got people who do like an index fund kind of approach where they sprinkle $50,000 checks across 200 companies and hope that something's going to win, kind of like playing Moneyball, it never works. Well, Y Combinator does it, but they make it work. But it doesn't generally work. You have to be active investors if you are a successful VC. You have to have muscle memory, have scars, have experiences of what went wrong, more importantly than what went right in the past, so that you can give that information onto the founders for free. We take no fees, no management, no consultancy stuff, no board fees, no nothing like that. It's just our job as good investors to do that, because you ultimately create a better outcome for us if we can give you that information. So to get that meeting, what do you need to do? You just need, in my experience, this is my pitch deck construction is a very personal thing, but this is what I look for. I look for 3 questions. I look for why you, and I'm going to give you 2 examples of people I've backed and tell you why they were you, why we backed them. Because ultimately at the pre-seed and seed stage, we're investing in your capabilities, your ability to hire great people, your ability to solve giant problems that matter. Really hard. And so, why are you the only person who is able to do this? And that's a big, bold thing to say. But the 2 examples I'm going to give you, they were literally pretty much the only person in the world who could build this company. So meet Jo. Jo, she is a veterinary scientist originally. Then she went to study another degree in computational biology from Stanford. And she came to us with an idea about eliminating the need for using animals in drug testing by creating AI-powered biosimulation models of the internal bodily systems of monkeys and rabbits and cats and dogs and mice. She loves animals. She understands about biology, and she can write code like nobody else. And so she did. She raised that. We did the pre-seed round for Jo's company. Her next round was led by Intel Capital, and now she's off to the races and doing all sorts of things with Pfizer and Roche as a client. Really, really hard thing to do, and that's only because she is who she is. There you go, poor old bunny. Melanie. Melanie is the founder of another space tech company that I backed in Los Angeles. She is the former co-founder of the NASA Space Force. And she also lost her hearing, through half of her hearing, through flying AWAC jets at subsonic speeds. And so she's a veteran, she's badass. She's flown planes like none of you could ever fly, and she's worked in space. I've asked her so many questions about UFOs, and she always tells me, you'll never believe me if I told you. But she's probably been on a UFO somewhere around Mars or Uranus or wherever. But her problem, sadly the image didn't appear, her problem was solving, using something called hyperspectral imagery, which is the imagery data that comes from satellites that is 228 times sharper than RGB, which is how we normally see red, green, blue. And that technology allows her company to be able to tell emergency responders during the Houston flooding, that was when we funded, to measure the depth of the water on certain roads. So if there was an ambulance trying to go down that road, we could say, don't go down that road because there's 6 feet of water there, but go on this one because it's only a couple inches. Really cool stuff, important things, and she's amazing. The next question is, why now? Why is now the only time that your company can exist? Why is it today? Things that could have been built 10 years ago, really hard to fund. Because then what's running through my mind is, well, why is it didn't work out for someone else? Maybe. It's too late. So, we're a pre-seed investor, right? We need to be investing at the beginning of your life cycle. So are you going to be fighting on price instead of innovation because somebody's already done what you've done? That's what we call a blood red ocean. If I can tell you one book to read, and it's the Blue Ocean Strategy. It's my favorite book, and that will tell you why we like to invest into companies that can answer that question today. So things that were once expensive that are now cheap. I mean, you can look at a GeForce graphics card 4090 for, I was pricing one up yesterday, about £2,000. 20 years ago, that would have been probably the size of a room and probably 200,000 or million, who knows. But graphics cards were one of the biggest advancements and the democratization of graphics cards that enabled things, obviously, like cryptocurrency mining and things like that to come to life and to make it cheap and to make our video games beautiful. What has happened at a societal level? And one of the things that why Uber became so successful was a couple reasons. There was a technological one. One was that Google open sourced the Google Maps API, which made it easy for anyone to create maps on apps and track your location. But perhaps the most important thing was also in 2008 was the GFC. And there were then hundreds of thousands of people in the United States of America where it launched with the only asset they have left, which is a car, and looking for a way to make money to pay the bills. That's what really drove Uber's growth, was the availability of human bodies to take people to and forth. And I was in LA when Uber launched, and it was really cool. I remember I was just going to go to the pub in Santa Monica, and I ordered an Uber, and a Rolls-Royce Phantom picked me up. I was like, what the hell is this? It was because the Golden Globes were going on that night, and some celebrity had decided to go there for 3 hours, and the driver was bored, and he was like, I'll put on Uber and see what happens. Sadly, I only traveled 2 miles. I should have traveled to Las Vegas or something, but anyway. Another thing, this guy, love him or hate him, he's an odd dude. I have met him twice before at YC. But LLMs and the advancement of that is really only technically feasible today. What's also important is that he cannot run his business without venture capital. I mean, I think he's generating over $1 billion in revenue, but to cost his business, to run it, it costs $4.1 billion per year. So it's just a venture fundable thing that needs money to grow. And who knows, the bubble for generative AI may pop. It hasn't really shown me a use case that blows my mind yet. I mean, summarizing stuff is pretty straightforward. We'll see where it goes. I can now tell the difference between a real photograph and a generative AI image. I presume most of you can too. Just go on Facebook for a while. You'll work it out. Go on Donald Trump's feed. He'll show you that. Then the last one is why us, which is why am I the best investor for you? What can I do for you? That goes back to that point about you choosing the right investor. What is it that's really, really key? So grill me. When I'm at that meeting with you, have questions, and I'll go into that in a minute. So who can I connect you to? With the deals that I've funded, often we have a mission statement or an agreement, an informal agreement between us, which says, before I give you this check and before you sign this long form document, I'm going to connect you to these 10 people on this day, and you hold me to it. And if I don't do it, then you can't do anything, but just give me lots of shit for it, basically. And so, get people to promise that up front, because that balances the expense of our capital, which is that we're owning your most precious asset, which is your equity. And when you're at the very early stage of your company, it's very easy to think, well, I've got no customers, I've got no revenue, this thing isn't worth anything, so I don't mind giving you 20% of my company. But when you get to $1.7 billion and I've got 20% of your company, that hurts. So it's very, very important that you think about that. So I'm doing all right on time. What are the 3 missed opportunities in a deck? Title page. Bearing in mind, when a deck comes in, typically we look at it for about 40 seconds. And if I'm interested, I'll dig in further. If not, probably not. So often, slides look like that. Oh, wait. Yeah, they do look like that. For some reason, some of the copy's missing on these slides. But anyhow, they look very bland and plain and boring. But sometimes, if you were to do something like this, where the first slide is simply your logo, and, I've got 3 clients who are flagship, Fortune 100 companies, and I've got $2 million worth of contracts. Will I want to read that deck more? Yes. So the title page is absolutely critical, because it does just set the tone. Or another one, it doesn't have to be revenue. It could be about technological achievement. And I'm obviously, bullshitting you here about fusion, right? But if you've achieved fusion 6 months ago, then yes, I want to know about it, because that's the savior of our planet and probably will be the first $1 trillion company ever to exist. And so don't be frightened to talk about a technical achievement that you've made that will make me want to read more. So inject some theater into this thing. Like, in the US, I used to see 20, 25 a day. It's not that fun sometimes. Like, make it cool. Make it interesting. Second one, and hopefully there's no accountants in the room. Hopefully they're not. Because often I've seen founders who might pay, 2,000 or 3,000 to an accounting firm to create your financial projections for you. Let me tell you, I don't believe any of it, because you don't know. You don't know how your business is going to perform. You want to always show me this. Now, one thing I did notice this morning was that you've all got the hockey stick, and I love it because that is what we want to hear. But it's just, quite frankly, Jack, it's a fiction. It's a work of fiction. It's a beautiful work of fiction. It's my favorite book, but it is total Jackanory. And so don't spend too much money on it. Don't spend too much time doing it. You can put it in if you want, but I'm not going to believe it. And this is the big one. And this kind of is often something that I think British founders don't do so well on. And what I learned from being in the US is ask me for the damn money. Like, why am I just reading this thing? Is it just because I like looking at pictures? No, I'm an investor. Like, show me the fucking money. Like, tell me what this is. Or most importantly, I should put an arrow here. Show me how you're going to make me the money. Because it's really, or how you're going to spend the money. Because if we're giving you $1 million or £1 million, where's it going to go? Is it going to go into product? Yes, most of it goes into product. Is it going to go into ops? Probably. Like, don't go and get a nice fancy office, in the middle of London, but like get a great office in Cornwall, maybe, and maybe just outside of Redruth. Some of it might go into sales. But just tell me how you're going to spend it, because that shows me how you're thinking about capital utilization, which also shows me ultimately how smart you are. And I have no appetite for buffer. Like, when I see this, like someone puts in, I'm going to put, 100 grand for buffer. I'm like, do you have buffer at home? I mean, I don't know, some of you do. I certainly don't. Like, buffer is a luxury, and I'm not giving you huge amounts of money that taken me 3 years to raise for you to have buffer and luxury. So don't put in buffer, please. So final words of advice. Be really surgical in who you choose to pitch for money. Okay, I said this before, don't carpet bomb. Have a list of people that you have a reason as to why you're talking to them, and tell them that in the email when you send them that email. Like, I'm investing in you because I noticed that you invest in with Jo and she did this amazing thing. I'm doing this really cool thing with dinosaurs and DNA extraction to make a new theme park. Yeah, I want to hear about that. That makes sense. Like, there's a logical reason for that connection. Or you invest in video game studios. Great. You might like to invest in mine. The best thing you can aim for from a meeting, and this is not to demean or to make this negative, is just aim for a quick no. And I can't tell you how many people don't give you a quick no. Some people are insecure about it. Some people are nervous about offending you. I spent 10 years in the US. I'm good at giving you a quick no, but I'll do it nicely. And I'll give you 3 reasons as to why I'm saying no. Because that's the most valuable thing you can get from a pitch. Yeah. I always get a picture of my kids because they're awesome, Arthur and James, so I'm going to put it in this slide. But they're having fun, and you should be having fun too. When you tell this story, have fun. Like, I'm very passionate about my space, and you might be able to hear that in my creaky voice, but like, I do love what I do, and I love telling stories, and so you should be telling a story, and your deck should follow the flow of a really elegant, engaging, captivating story. And also come with two or three questions for the investor. There's nothing better than you saying to me, the best question I get is like, well, tell me about when things went wrong. What did you do? Great. I mean, that gives me the chance to boast about all the cool things I've done with the portfolio companies that have gone wrong. Or, who could you introduce me to on day one? Why not? Like, don't be frightened to do that, because that's what we want to hear. If you can't ask me for the money, or you can't ask me a question like that, then I'm starting to have doubts that you can go to Disney and ask them for a $500,000 contract. because you don't have that like gumption, right? So very, very important. And finally, you must make sure that you mind your mental health. This is a stressful process. It's one that you will no doubt come away feeling shit from, because you're going to get 50, 100, 150 no's. And your job is to be resilient, to remember that it's not your fault. It's just you didn't fit within that company. But also, the last thing I will say is that it's not always a no. Sometimes it's just a not right now. So come back. I am doing a pitch deck teardown, and I'm doing it at our friends at Falmouth Uni on this date. It's free for everyone to come on the 10th of October at 3 p.m. So I haven't had time to give you my template, but I'm going to do it here. So come along, and I'll go through slide by slide what your 11 slide deck should look like. So click on that QR code, take a picture of it now, whatever you want, register, and I will see you there, bright and bushy tailed. Thank you very much.